Every time I do group runs, there's at least one topic I can guarantee that's going to come up and be discussed, and that's pain and aches and injuries. Somebody will bring up something that's been bothering them for a bit, and then everybody else will start chiming in with their own aches and things that have been bugging them. And when you ask most runners how long something has been bugging them, the answer is a lot longer than it should be. We're usually talking about something that's been there for weeks, if not months. It's not that they're exactly ignoring it, it's just that they didn't really know what to do with the information their body was telling them. Listen to your body is the advice that everyone defaults to in the fitness world, myself included, but it's also one of the most misunderstood pieces of advice. It tells you to pay attention without telling you what to pay attention to or what to do with that information. And so most runners default to the extremes. They take the signals and push through them regardless until something eventually gives, or they stop running at every little ache and pain they have. Both responses coming from the fact that nobody told them what listening to your body actually means. Hi, if you're new here, my name is Daniel Steamer. I'm a multi-certified endurance sports coach specializing in running for adults. I've personally run over 130 races, including 3 marathons, 2 ultras, 4 half Ironman, and I'm currently getting ready for my first full Ironman. And on top of all that, I coach everyday adults from their first race to their biggest adventures. So today I want to talk about what listening to your body actually means, something that I personally care a lot about, and I've probably done multiple videos on at this point. When we're active, our body is put through stress. And when our body is stressed, there's going to be discomfort with it. And our body sends a lot of signals out based on the different levels and intensity of that discomfort. Our muscle spindles detect how much and how fast they're being stretched, and they send signals to the nervous system when it's too much. Golgi tendon organs sit at the junction between muscle and tendon, monitoring the tension, triggering inhibition when the load becomes too much. Joint receptors monitor pressure and compression in joint capsules and communicate when there's too much mechanical stress going on. Nociceptors in inflamed tendons and bursa activate when the tissue is under stress beyond what it can handle. All of these systems that monitor your body and more are active every time you're out for a run. But the problem is for most runners, when they get any one of these signals, they collapse it down into one category. Something hurts. My knee hurts, my hip hurts, something feels off in my foot. And so the difference between hearing your body and listening to your body is about getting curious about what those discomforts are. Examining exactly what your body is trying to tell you is going wrong. And so those runners at running groups who mention something's been bugging them for months aren't the outliers. That's kind of the normal. That's the pattern I see with a lot of different runners in a lot of different groups. And this is because a lot of runners don't get curious about what their body's telling them. And sometimes that's out of fear that if they were to examine it, they'd have to stop. But a 2-week rest when the pain first shows up is a choice. A 12-week forced stop 6 months down the line because an injury progressed is when the choice is taken away from you. Either way, the training block you were focused on is going to be lost. But in the latter case, you're now rebuilding from a much worse position instead of a manageable setback. The longer you ignore what your body is trying to tell you, the more likely your body is going to force you to stop down the line. Now, here's the thing. Running is supposed to feel like something. There should be a little bit of discomfort when you're trying to progress as a runner. Efforts should be uncomfortable. Hard runs should be hard. Some runs are just going to feel rough. So the question isn't just, does something feel uncomfortable? But it's more about the messages you're getting. For instance, some soreness a day or two after a hard effort is expected. That's your body recovering and adapting to the stress you put on it, rebuilding your muscles back stronger. And discomfort that shows up during a run is worth paying attention to, but not necessarily a reason to stop. You have to look at things like, is this a one-off or is this a pattern you notice every time you run? For instance, if your knee feels off after a long descent, the first time that happens, that's just information. But if every time you run a descent, your knee feels off in the exact same way, in the exact same place, that's a pattern to examine. Reoccurring, localized pain, the kind you can put a finger on and say, this hurts right here every time you run, is the kind of pain a lot of runners seem to underestimate because something is being asked of that tissue that it can't manage, that it can't handle. Maybe you're being too intense. Maybe you're putting too much volume on it. Maybe you're not giving enough recovery for it to repair or rebuild between sessions. It could be a lot of different things. So if it keeps showing up in a regular way, or if it's a sharp pain, stop and get it assessed. But here's the thing. Like I said, a lot of runners will deal with pain and discomfort for weeks, if not months, kind of hoping it'll just go away. And they'll keep pushing through regardless of what their body is trying to tell them. And honestly, this is mostly a perception problem from what I've experienced. First, there's a physiological gap. Your cardio systems, your lungs, your heart, your circulatory system will get better much faster than the rest of your body, your bones, your joints, your muscles, your tendons. And so you might feel like a stronger runner than what your body is actually capable of handling. So it's easy to push too hard, too early, while your body is really just accumulating stress in your joints and tissue. The second perception issue is about pain normalization. When you've had an ache every time you run, at first it's something you might be concerned about, but by several weeks in, it's kind of just the thing you're used to. It's part of what you do. It's been normalized as that just happens when you run. The third perception issue is about identity. I kind of mentioned this before, but when you are training hard for something that's coming up, or you're somebody who, for instance, has the identity of running every day, the idea that you might need to take some time off or back off is hard to accept because it shifts your identity. Instead of being the person who's always out there being active, you're the person now who's taking some time to rest or changing up what you're doing to recover. And this can conflict with things like you're the person who always shows up. And the fourth, and what I think might be the biggest, is a cultural perception. There's a lot of slogans in fitness like no pain, no gain, or pain is weakness leaving the body, that encourages people to push through pain that they really shouldn't ignore. Fitness and running culture treat pain as kind of like a character test. Like, are you hurting yourself enough? Have you earned that title of being a runner? Which I think is kind of ridiculous. And that last point, I will sometimes see in my coaching. I'll have a client who will admit they've been struggling for a few weeks because something's been bugging them. They've been having an ache in their hip or knees, but they didn't want to let me know because they didn't want to disappoint me, as if I had some judgment over who they were as an athlete. And every time that comes up, the conversation's always the same. They know their body better than I do. They're in charge of their own progression. I'm just here to push and challenge them at the appropriate level. And sometimes that appropriate level is adjusting things so that their body can heal and catch up to the volume and stress they've been putting on it. So to wrap things up, listening to your body means creating a response that matches the messages you're getting. Widespread soreness after a hard effort, focus on recovery. Make sure you're getting enough sleep, you're eating good food, you're doing easy movement to keep blood flow high, and that it's not getting worse with repeated work, and you're giving that muscle group time off by rotating to other exercises. Discomfort that shows up mid-run and fades, pay attention to it. Note where it happened. Note when it happened. Note what makes it come and go. Note if it's a reoccurring pattern. The more it reoccurs, and especially if the pain is getting worse with each reoccurrence, get it looked at. If something is always reoccurring, if it's always in the same spot, and especially if it's sharp, then stop what you're doing and get it assessed. It's better to have pain looked at early before it progresses into a full-blown injury. And when you're managing pains and aches, focus on little things like decreasing your volume, decreasing your intensity, and letting those signals dictate your return to your normal load. Progress as things get better, not force your way through until they get better. And one last thing I want to throw in here is NSAIDs, like ibuprofen, are great for managing pain, but they mute the messages, not the problem behind them. So while they might help you deal with the fact that your knees or hips are sore, they're not actually going to fix what's going wrong, causing that soreness in the first place. And research shows that they slow healing in your muscles and bones and tendons. So be careful with your usage of them. So the runners I encounter at these run groups who have had things bothering them for weeks, they're not really ignoring what's going on. They just don't know how to manage it. They've never had a framework for when to slow down or get things assessed. And hopefully I gave that to you in this video. It doesn't have to be complex. It's really simple based on how loud the messages are, how frequent they are, how often they reoccur, and always, if it's a sharp pain, that's an immediate signal to stop. and get it assessed. So what's your body been telling you that you've been waiting to go away on its own? If you find this kind of information useful, please subscribe, like, or comment. It helps my channel grow. My goal with this channel is simple: to provide everyday adults with the information they need to train well and live their biggest adventures.